Hello again, welcome back. Welcome back to another English class. Esto es complicado, ¿a que sí? This is complicated. What's the most complicated thing about life? Lo más complicado. Me encanta la palabra lo en castellano, pero en inglés no lo tenemos. What's the most complicated thing about life? Marriage? ¿El matrimonio? No. Las hipotecas? Mortgages? Nah. English? Maybe. Aprender inglés. What's the most complicated thing about life? If learning English, if you don't make an effort. It's very complicated. What's the least complicated? En cambio, on the other hand, what's the least complicated thing about life? Learning English, if you make an effort. So learning English can be two things, the most complicated or the least complicated about life. With an effort, least. Without an effort, the most.
Hello and welcome to another class. Are you ready to begin? I am. All right, what's the most complicated thing about life? And the least complicated thing? ¿Qué es lo más complicado de la vida? ¿Y lo menos complicado? So the first part is, what's the most complicated thing about life? So, ¿qué es lo más complicado de la vida? Here we have to say about life, about the life. And also, what's. Remember the contraction, what's. And the most complicated thing, usamos el qué? El superlativo, the superlative. The most complicated, y hay que meter la palabra thing. Muy importante. We never say, what's the most complicated, y así sin nada. Hay que meter thing, literalmente la cosa más complicada. And also complicated. Ojo, aquí la pronunciación. ¿Cuántas sílabas son? 4. 4 syllables. Complicated. Don't forget the last syllable. Not complicate. Complicated. What's the most complicated thing? What's the most awful thing? Awful, palabra del día, terrible. What's the most interesting thing? Ok, sigue practicando y hasta ahora.
Oh, I'm working on my latest masterpiece, of course, and the best thing about it, lo mejor, por supuesto, we say the best thing. No se dice the best about it, sino the best thing about it. The best thing about it is the size. The best thing about it is the size. The worst thing about it is the color, because it's only black. The worst thing about it is the color. Vamos a ver. Ooh. The most interesting thing about it is the mountain, or actually, the mountains. The most interesting thing about it is the mountains. Actually, the most interesting thing about it is the tear, rascadura, the tear, claro, it's a masterpiece. The most difficult thing about it is the signature.
Okay, let's continue now. But first, let's review the sentence. What's the most complicated thing about life? And the least complicated? ¿Qué es lo más complicado de la vida? ¿Y lo menos complicado? So in this one, we're going to look at life, right? Not the life. Porque en español decimos la vida. Pero en inglés quitamos esa la, sin artículo, life, y punto. For example, what's the most complicated thing about life? What's the most interesting thing about life? What's the most difficult thing about life? Again, not the life, sin the. Eso es un error muy típico. Very typical Spanish. Okay, más ejemplos. Life can be very interesting. La vida puede ser muy interesante. Life is good. La vida es buena. Life is beautiful. La vida es bella. Life is sweet. La vida es dulce. So life can be very interesting. Life can be very complicated. Don't forget complicated. That's life. Así es la vida. We don't say that's the life. Remember, sin the. So don't forget. See you in the next segment.
Hello everyone and welcome to the shop that sells everything you need when you need it. And today I have another special offer. That's right, another special offer. This book is half price. It's half price and it's so interesting. It's called Life. It's called Life. La vida. Life. Fíjate, it's not live and it's not live. It's life. Life. So this book is called Life and it's about life. It's not about the life. It's about life. Let's see what you can find in here. Wow. What's the easiest thing about life? What's the easiest thing about life? It's inside this book. What's the most difficult thing about life? It's also inside this book. What's the most important thing about life? It's inside this book. And for you, it's 50% off.
Okay, now let's look at the last part of the lesson. But let's review the sentence. Let's repeat. What's the most complicated thing about life? And the least complicated? ¿Qué es lo más complicado de la vida? ¿Y lo menos complicado? So the last part is, and the least complicated thing. The least, el menos, el menos complicado. So we say the least, not the less. Ojo aquí, remember, the least. Repeat conmigo, the least. Después, complicated, otra vez 4 sílabas, dame todas 4, okay? All 4 syllables. The least complicated and thing. Don't forget thing. Hay que poner literalmente la palabra thing, cosa. Okay, so lo menos complicado is the least complicated thing. What's the least complicated thing about life? What's the least complicated thing about this project? Right? ¿Qué es lo menos complicado de este proyecto? What's the least complicated thing about his plan? ¿Qué es lo menos complicado de su plan? So don't forget, todos juntos, what's the most complicated thing about life and the least complicated thing? See you next time.
A ver lo que nos ha dejado el artista Zack hoy. Vamos a ver. What's the most complicated thing about life? Buena pregunta. Good question. Now, acordaos, nunca decimos the life. What's the most complicated thing about life? No, the life. So, what is it? ¿Qué es? Nothing. I think everything has a solution. Todo tiene solución. Okay, what is the most... No, the least. What is the least complicated thing about life? Or in the world? What is the least complicated thing in the world? The least complicated thing is following the rules. Seguir las normas. Yeah, it's not complicated. What is the least difficult thing about my job? Yeah, the least difficult thing is being serious. Nunca decimos the less difficult. De hecho, hay una errata aquí. Tenemos una situación. We've got a situation. Perdona, aquí dice esto es the less difficult y debería decir the least difficult.